Blood dripped from Vox's bruised knuckles as he burst into his family's dwelling, his body racked with uncontrollable sobs. He had narrowly escaped a brutal beating from his alien classmates after defending Philip, a human student they ruthlessly bullied. Vox's father, Kren, looked up from his datapad, alarmed at the sight of his battered son. "Vox, what happened to you? Who did this?" Through hiccuping breaths, Vox poured out the story. Their teacher had announced a new human student named Philip Boyd would be joining the class. Many students were excited, as humans were renowned for their courage and heart. But when pale-skinned, flat-faced Philip entered the room, Vox impulsively blurted out, "He looks so weird and ugly." The cruel words hung in the air as the class exploded in mocking laughter. Philip's face flushed red with humiliation. Vox immediately regretted his impulsive cruelty and tried to apologize, but Philip just looked away, wounded. "I didn't mean it, I swear," Vox wailed to his father. "I don't know why I said something so awful. Philip must hate me now. I'm a horrible person." Kren listened in shocked silence. His kind-hearted son wasn't one to hurt others. This was serious. Vox continued, voice shaking. "It gets worse. At recess, a gang of older boys surrounded Philip. They shoved him and yelled terrible slurs. I couldn't just watch, so I fought them. I fought them all to protect Philip, but there were too many." Fresh tears streamed down Vox's face as he looked at his bleeding hands. "They beat me up, but Philip jumped in to save me. A human saved me, even after I mocked him. He pulled me away and we ran. If he hadn't—" Vox trailed off, not wanting to imagine the worst. Kren pulled his son into a tight hug as Vox sobbed into his shoulder. "Philip risked himself for me after what I said. How can I face him tomorrow? He'll never forgive me. I should transfer classes to avoid his anger. It's what I deserve." Kren's heart ached seeing Vox so distraught. He couldn't find the right words to comfort him. All he could do was hold his son as the boy cried himself out, wondering how this strange human child would impact their lives. Humans were a complex species, but if Philip was willing to defend his son after facing such mockery, perhaps their courage and compassion truly had no limits. All Kren knew was that Vox needed Philip's forgiveness and friendship, or the guilt would crush his gentle spirit. Their future with this human in their midst was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The Boyd boy had the power to either mend Vox's heart or break it forever. And for Vox's sake, Kren desperately hoped Philip would find it in his own heart to understand and accept his son's remorse. Otherwise, the pain of this day would haunt Vox for the rest of his life, and that was a fate too terrible for any father to contemplate. The next morning, Vox dragged his feet as he trudged into the school building, head hung low. Each step felt heavy, dreading the moment he'd have to face Philip again. As he shuffled into the classroom, he saw Philip sitting alone at his desk, the other students keeping their distance. Vox hunched his shoulders, trying to make himself as small and unnoticeable as possible. But it was too late. Philip had already spotted him. To Vox's shock, instead of glaring or turning away, Philip smiled tentatively and waved him over. Hesitantly, Vox approached Philip's desk, bracing himself for anger or accusations, but Philip's expression held only understanding. "Hey, Vox, I hope you're feeling better after yesterday. I know things got pretty intense." Vox stared at his feet, shame burning his cheeks. "Philip, I'm so sorry for what I said. I didn't mean it. I don't know why I blurted out something so cruel." Philip nodded. "I get it, Vox. Believe me, I know what it's like to feel different and say things you regret later. Back on Earth, there was a girl in my class who had this unusual hair color. I made fun of her for it in front of everyone. She burst into tears and ran out. I felt awful." "What did you do?" Vox asked quietly. "I apologized sincerely. I told her I was wrong and that I was sorry for hurting her. And you know what? She forgave me. We actually became really good friends after that." Philip reached into his bag and pulled out a small, brightly colored cube covered in squares. "Here, I want you to have this. It's called a Rubik's Cube. It's a human puzzle." Awed by Philip's kindness, Vox accepted the gift with trembling hands. "Thank you, Philip. I don't deserve this after how I treated you." Philip smiled. Everyone deserves a second chance, Vox. I forgive you. Later, in the cafeteria, Vox slid into a seat across from his best friend, Zim. You'll never believe what happened with Philip, Vox said, placing the Rubik's Cube on the table. Zim's eyes widened as Vox recounted Philip's forgiveness. Wow, that's amazing. If an Ocampa was insulted like that, they'd hold a grudge for life. Can I see the cube thingy? Vox handed it over, but just as Zim was examining it, a group of older students swooped in and snatched it away. Look, Vox is playing with human garbage, one of them sneered. They tossed the Rubik's Cube back and forth as Vox and Zim frantically tried to grab it. Suddenly, Philip appeared out of nowhere and plucked the cube from the air mid-throw. He turned to the bullies, his voice calm but firm. Leave my friends alone. Vox and Zim shared a stunned look. Philip had called them his friends. The bullies scoffed and rolled their eyes, but seeing Philip's unwavering stance, they slunk away. Philip handed the cube back to Vox. Zim blurted out, I can't believe you helped us after what Vox said to you yesterday. Philip just shrugged. That's what friends do. They forgive each other and stand up for each other. As the three of them sat together, eating lunch and taking turns trying to solve the Rubik's Cube, Vox marveled at the turn of events. Philip wasn't just some strange alien to gawk at. He was a true friend, with a generous heart and capacity for forgiveness, far beyond what Vox had ever known. For the first time, Vox felt a swell of pride and gratitude to call Philip his friend. Maybe, just maybe, this human boy was here to teach them all a lesson in compassion and loyalty that would change their lives forever. A few weeks had passed since Vox and Philip's fateful encounter with the bullies in the cafeteria. The two had grown closer than ever, bonding over their shared love for learning about each other's worlds. Vox burst into his family's dwelling, eyes shining with excitement. Dad, guess what? The school science fair is coming up, and Philip and I are going to do a project together. Kren looked up from his work, pleasantly surprised by his son's enthusiasm. That's wonderful, Vox. What's your project about? We're going to showcase Earth's biodiversity, Vox gushed. Philip has been teaching me all about the different ecosystems and creatures on his planet. Did you know that Earth has over 8 million different species? And that's just the ones they've discovered so far. Kren listened intently as Vox rattled off fact after fact about Earth's varied biomes, from the lush rainforests teeming with colorful birds and insects, to the vast oceans home to whales larger than their spacecraft. He marveled at how much his son had learned from his human friend in such a short time. It sounds like Philip has really sparked your interest in xenobiology, Kren remarked, impressed. Vox nodded eagerly. He makes it so fascinating. I never realized how incredible Earth is. I can't wait to show everyone at the science fair. On the day of the event, Vox and Philip proudly presented their project to the judges and curious onlookers. Their booth was adorned with detailed models of Earth's different habitats, each one painstakingly crafted to showcase the planet's stunning diversity of life. As Vox explained the intricacies of Earth's ecosystems to the judges, Philip stood by his side, beaming with pride at his friend's newfound expertise. The judges were visibly impressed by the depth of their knowledge and the creativity of their presentation. While they waited nervously for the results to be announced, Vox overheard a group of parents whispering nearby. It hardly seems fair for a human to be competing, one of them muttered. With all their advantages, of course their project will win. Exactly, another parent agreed. What chance do our kids have against that kind of competition? Vox felt a surge of anger at their prejudiced remarks. He glanced over at Philip, hoping his friend hadn't overheard the cruel comments. When the winners were finally announced, Vox and Philip's project took second place. Vox was thrilled by their achievement, but as he turned to congratulate Philip, he noticed his friend's subdued expression. As they made their way out of the crowded auditorium, Vox pulled Philip aside. Hey, what's wrong? We did great. Philip sighed. I heard what those parents were saying, about how it's not fair for me to compete because I'm human. He looked down at his feet. I don't want you to think our friendship gave us an unfair advantage. Vox stared at him incredulously for a moment, before pulling Philip into a fierce hug. Philip, our project's success had nothing to do with you being human. It was all thanks to our hard work and dedication. He pulled back, looking his friend straight in the eye. You taught me so much about Earth's biodiversity, not because you're human, but because you're passionate about your planet and all the life on it. That's what matters. Philip blinked back tears as he returned Vox's hug, overwhelmed by his friend's unwavering loyalty and support. That night, as Vox recounted the day's events to his father, he couldn't help but vent his frustration at the parents' closed-minded attitudes. I just don't understand why some Ocampa still judge humans so harshly for being different, Vox fumed. Philip's species doesn't define him. It's his kindness, his integrity, his dedication to learning that make him who he is. Kren listened thoughtfully, a small smile playing on his lips as he witnessed his son's passionate defense of his friend. You're absolutely right, Vox. Philip's unique qualities should be celebrated, not resented. Vox nodded vehemently. Exactly, I mean, sure, humans may have some advantages, but that's not what makes Philip special. It's his heart that sets him apart. Kren felt a swell of pride at his son's open-mindedness and moral conviction. In just a few short weeks, Philip had not only become a true friend to Vox, but had also taught him invaluable lessons about acceptance, compassion, and the importance of looking beyond surface differences. Philip sounds like a remarkable individual, Kren agreed. I'm glad you've found such a loyal and caring friend. Vox smiled, his anger fading as he thought about all the incredible moments he and Philip had shared. Me too, Dad. Me too. As he drifted off to sleep that night, Vox's mind was filled not with thoughts of the science fair or the prejudiced whispers, but with a profound sense of gratitude for the extraordinary friendship he had found in Philip. Together, they would continue to learn, grow, and challenge the narrow-minded views of those around them, one incredible Earth fact at a time. Months had passed since the science fair, and Vox and Philip's friendship had only grown stronger. They spent nearly every recess together, often joined by Zim, playing games and sharing stories from their respective worlds. One particularly warm afternoon, the trio decided to toss a ball around in the schoolyard. Zim threw the ball a bit too enthusiastically, sending it soaring over the fence and into the dense foliage that bordered the school grounds. Oops, Zim said sheepishly. Sorry about that. Philip shrugged, already moving towards the fence. No worries, I'll go get it. Vox and Zim exchanged a worried glance. Philip, wait, Vox called out. The wilderness beyond the fence is strictly off-limits. It's too dangerous. Philip waved off their concerns with a grin. It'll be fine, I'll be right back. Before either of his friends could protest further, he hopped over the fence and disappeared into the thick undergrowth. Vox and Zim waited anxiously, their eyes glued to the spot where Philip had vanished. Minutes ticked by with no sign of their friend. Vox was just about to suggest they go get a teacher when a sharp cry of pain rang out from the forest. Without hesitation, Vox scrambled over the fence, Zim hot on his heels. They crashed through the foliage, following the sound of Philip's voice. They found him on the ground, his face twisted in agony as he clutched at his ankle. A large thorny vine was wrapped tightly around his leg, digging into his skin. "Philip!" Vox cried, dropping to his knees beside his friend. "What happened?" Philip grimaced. "I tripped and got tangled up in this vine. It just kept getting tighter and tighter the more I struggled." Zim's eyes widened in recognition. That's a grasp-thorn creeper. It's a carnivorous plant that immobilizes its prey. Philip paled. "Carnivorous? You mean it's trying to eat me?" Zim nodded grimly. "Larger animals can usually break free, but with your smaller size and lack of natural defenses, you're at a disadvantage." Vox racked his brain, trying to remember anything he'd learned about grasp-thorn creepers. Suddenly it hit him. The roots, they're incredibly sensitive. If we can disrupt them, it might loosen its grip. Without wasting another second, Vox and Zim began digging at the base of the plant, careful to avoid the thrashing vines. Philip let out a gasp of relief as the creeper's coils reflexively loosened, allowing him to wriggle free. Supporting Philip between them, Vox and Zim hurried back to the school. The nurse praised their quick thinking and teamwork in rescuing their friend. "Philip," she said solemnly, "your selfless act in retrieving the ball reflects well on your character and your species. You should be proud." Later, as Vox walked home with his father, he recounted the harrowing incident. Kren listened intently, his brow furrowed with concern and admiration. "Philip was incredibly brave to go after the ball like that," Kren remarked. "And you and Zim were resourceful in figuring out how to free him from the Grasp-Thorn's grasp." Vox nodded thoughtfully. It's true that Philip's human physiology put him at a disadvantage against the creeper, but he more than makes up for it with his selflessness and determination to help others, no matter the risk to himself. Kren smiled softly. Those qualities are far more important than any physical attributes. Philip's actions continue to challenge and disprove the negative stereotypes some of our people hold about humans. "Exactly," Vox agreed. "Philip has taught me so much about courage, compassion, and the true meaning of friendship. I'm grateful to have him in my life." As they walked on in contemplative silence, Vox couldn't help but marvel at the incredible journey he and Philip had been on together. From that first rocky encounter to the unbreakable bond they now shared, Philip had shown time and again the depths of human kindness and resilience. Vox knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, he could always count on Philip to be there, ready to face them head-on with unwavering bravery and a heart full of love. It was a friendship that would withstand the test of time and the judgment of others, a shining example of the power of understanding and acceptance. As the school year drew to a close, Vox could barely contain his excitement. He burst into his family's dwelling, a wide grin on his face. "Dad, guess what? Philip invited me and Zim to visit Earth with him this summer. Can I go, please?" Kren looked up from his datapad, surprise and concern warring on his face. "Earth? That's quite a journey, Vox, and staying with humans for an extended period. I'm not sure." Vox's expression fell, but he quickly rallied. "But Dad, think about it. It's an incredible opportunity to learn about human culture firsthand, and Philip will be with us the whole time. Please, I promise I'll be careful." Kren sighed, considering his son's plea. He had to admit the prospect of Vox experiencing another world and forming deeper bonds with his human friend was compelling. "All right, Vox, you can go, but on one condition: I'm coming with you." Vox's eyes widened, then he launched himself at his father, hugging him tightly. "Thank you, Dad. This is going to be amazing." When they arrived on Earth, Philip's family greeted them with warm smiles and open arms. Vox and Kren marveled at the lush green landscapes and towering cities, so different from Ocampa's arid terrain and modest dwellings. Over the next few weeks, Philip took them on a whirlwind tour of his homeworld. They hiked through ancient forests, swam in vast oceans, and explored bustling metropolises. Vox was constantly amazed by the resilience and adaptability of humans, thriving in such diverse environments. "Your world is incredible, Philip," Vox said as they stood atop a mountain, gazing out over a sea of clouds. "Humans are so resourceful, finding ways to live and prosper in even the harshest conditions." Philip grinned, pride shining in his eyes. "Thanks, Vox. It hasn't always been easy, but we've learned to work with our planet, not against it." However, their adventure took a tragic turn when Philip's mother fell gravely ill. Vox and Kren watched helplessly as their friend sat by his mother's bedside, holding her hand and whispering words of comfort. Despite access to advanced Ocampan medical technology, Philip's mother passed away. At the funeral, Vox saw Philip cry for the first time, his shoulders shaking with grief. Vox's heart ached for his friend's loss, wishing desperately that he could do something to ease his pain. As they prepared to return to Ocampa, Vox overheard a conversation between Philip and his father. Philip's voice was raw with emotion as he spoke. "What's the point of having alien friends if they can't even save Mom, all their advanced technology, and they couldn't do anything?" His father's voice was gentle but firm. "Philip, death is a part of life. No technology can erase the pain of loss. What matters is the love and support of family and true friends, no matter where they come from. Philip fell into his father's arms, his tears soaking into his shirt. I know, Dad, I miss her so much. On the journey home, Vox sat quietly next to Philip, searching for the right words. Finally, he reached out and took Philip's hand, squeezing it gently. I'm sorry I couldn't save your mom, Philip, but I'll always be here for you, no matter what. Because that's what friends do. Philip's eyes glistened with tears as he squeezed Vox's hand in return. Thank you, Vox. That means more than you know. Months later, Vox and Kren were visiting Zim's family when the topic of Philip arose. Zim's mother's face was etched with concern as she spoke. We were so sorry to hear about Philip's loss. But Vox, are you sure about this friendship? Humans are so emotionally volatile, and your differences, I worry it will only lead to heartbreak. Kren listened quietly, then leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. I understand your concerns. Interspecies friendships are not without their challenges and risks, but the rewards, the broadening of horizons, the breaking down of prejudices, the forging of unbreakable bonds, far outweigh them, eh? He smiled softly, his eyes distant with memory. Knowing Philip has changed Vox in ways I never could have imagined. He's taught him empathy, courage, and the true meaning of friendship. Those are lessons that will stay with him forever. Zim's parents exchanged a glance, then nodded slowly. You may be right, Kren. Perhaps we've been too quick to judge. As the conversation turned to other matters, Vox's thoughts drifted to Philip. He knew their friendship would face obstacles and heartaches. It already had. But he also knew that the love and understanding they shared transcended any differences between them. He looked up at the stars, thinking of his friend, and smiled. No matter the challenges ahead, their bond would endure. A testament to the power of friendship to bridge even the vastest of divides. The Ocampan school year resumed, and Vox was glad to see Philip back in class, though his friend's eyes still held a shadow of grief. Vox did his best to support Philip, often sitting with him in companionable silence during lunch, or partnering with him on projects. Zim, too, rallied around Philip, his usually boisterous demeanor softened with understanding. The three friends spent many afternoons exploring the wild lands beyond the school fence, Philip teaching Vox and Zim about the various earth plants he recognized from his studies. One day, as they were walking home from school, Vox turned to Philip with a hesitant smile. Hey, I was thinking, what if we started a club at school? A place where Ocampans and humans can come together to learn about each other's cultures and experiences. Philip's eyes widened, then a slow grin spread across his face. Vox, that's a brilliant idea. We could call it the Interstellar Friendship Alliance or something. Vox laughed, his heart lightening at the sight of Philip's enthusiasm. I like it. We can ask our teacher to sponsor us and put up flyers around school. I bet lots of students would be interested. As they discussed plans for the club, Vox felt a warm glow of pride and purpose. He knew that by fostering understanding and connection between their species, they were honoring the bond he and Philip shared, a friendship that had already weathered so much and emerged stronger than ever. The Interstellar Friendship Alliance quickly gained traction, with dozens of Ocampan and human students joining in the first few weeks. They held meetings where members shared stories, traditions, and ideas from their respective cultures, building bridges of empathy and appreciation. Vox and Philip were the heart of the club, their own friendship a shining example of the power of open-mindedness and compassion. They organized field trips to significant sites on both Ocampa and Earth, fostering a sense of shared wonder and discovery among their classmates. However, not everyone was thrilled with the club's success. Some Ocampan parents complained to the school administration, arguing that the alliance was a dangerous distraction from their children's studies and a threat to their cultural identity. Tensions came to a head when a group of older Ocampan students confronted Vox and Philip after a club meeting, their faces twisted with anger and disgust. "You're betraying your own kind," one of them sneered at Vox. "Cozying up to these humans, pretending like they're our equals." Philip stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. We're not pretending anything. Vox is my friend, and our friendship is proof that Ocampans and humans can learn from and support each other, regardless of our differences." The other students scoffed, but Vox could see a flicker of uncertainty in their eyes. He knew that changing hearts and minds would not happen overnight, but he also knew that every small act of understanding and compassion made a difference. As the confrontation dissipated and the other students slunk away, Vox turned to Philip with a rueful smile. "Well, that was intense, but I'm proud of you for standing up for our friendship like that." Philip shrugged, a wry grin tugging at his lips. "Hey, you've been there for me through everything. The least I can do is return the favor." Vox's heart swelled with gratitude and affection. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, that there would always be those who feared and resisted the idea of interspecies connection. But he also knew that with Philip by his side, he had the strength and courage to face any challenge. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.